So what does happen to performance when you change management assumptions and you redesign the system and you have employees who focus on understanding and designing against nominal value? Well, first interesting bit of learning is that this is also quite new for the customers. You know, they're not used to having this kind of interaction with a financial service provider, and they're not used to have this end-to-end experience. But when they learn that there's really being paid attention to their individual need and what matters, and when this often leads to solutions which are quite different from what they have today, then they get happier. They react really positively. And when everything that happens after the customer has accepted happens right and happens quickly, you know, the customers get happier and failure demand is reduced as a consequence. They're not in doubt anymore.
When you saw Acuff's quote there about actually it's the interactions that are important, that might sound quite technical and you might think, well, that's very theoretical. You must manage the interactions. It's really easy if you start with redesigning the system to do value work from a customer perspective. So the left-hand side is our redesign. So we've managed to get hold of this and actually studied it with the people who do the work and the leaders. And we're now in our system with 4 value steps, which are understand me, recommend and proceed, make me an offer, and transfer the funds. Now, our key principle in this redesign is make sure the workflow is 100% clean. So we do not move past our first understand me piece until we've got everything we want for that customer, because we found over and over and over again in the study phase that unclean work was the reason why we were getting so much failure demand and end-to-end time was so long.
We changed the service in a way that at the point where the customer was sitting with the broker to do the application, the broker would call us, verify with us the application, and make sure we have all the details, and would have the opportunity to email us any verification documentation we may need. So the agent on the phone could already say, oh, I've done electronic ID&V, don't bother sending me the paperwork. Or they would say, I need it, can you please send it to me? Yeah, and if the broker would manage to email it while they were on the phone, the agent would actually verify it on the phone and say, yeah, that document is fine. I can give you now an offer subject to evaluation. That was the only thing that was outstanding. Yeah, and then we measured the crap out of the evaluation team to understand the variation. And the variation was massive from one day, i.e. they managed to get an evaluator to the property the next day, to 2 weeks. Could be anything. Can't remember what the SLA was, but probably something like 3 or 4 days. Yeah, and we want to get to a point where we could predictably say to the broker and therefore the customer, we know this will be done within a day or will be done within 2 days. And we managed to actually get to 80–90% of the offers being issued same day, subject to evaluation.
What we're also finding is by asking the what matters question in this system is give you the best rate. So even in our redesign, where the focus is on doing things more quickly, when we're asking the what matters question, only 50% of customers are actually going any further because we can't give them the rate that they want. So again, more learning, focusing on time, but actually we should be thinking about the kinds of products we're offering as well.
You've heard about an intervention, you've heard about how it's done in collaboration with the people and the leaders, and these were some of the outcomes that we found in one division of the UK, which was property, and that was a severely loss-making division. You see that there was a 64% in the reduction of failure demand, and then we heard about the importance of the first contact the customer has with the system, resolving their issues. We got a 58% improvement there, 36% improvement in the end-to-end settlement time of a claim, and then a 30% improvement in customer ratings, and ironically, a reduction in the claims spend.
And what was the thing that really sort of changed my perspective was realizing that if you have an operation that is growing particularly, and that was at that time quite unique in financial services. Most financial services companies did well if they didn't shrink. Our mortgage business was actually growing, and at the same time, no one was allowed to hire. So how do you solve that problem? And the only way you can solve that is if you create capacity. And the way you create capacity is to take out failure demand. And what I found really powerful with the Vanguard method, it taught me how to take out failure demand. No other method before could do that for me. They taught me how to recognize failure demand, but didn't help me necessarily to take it out. So what was so powerful about it was that it was so simple.
So whenever we're kind of doing a deal for a new bit of business or we're doing some sort of review, I always get these kind of pointy-headed guys come and say, Richard, I'd like to see your process maps. It really, really upsets them when I say, well, we haven't got any process maps because I haven't got any processes. And they think I'm joking, but after a cup of coffee and an explanation, they realise that that's true. But I will talk to them about the principles that we use, okay? And I'm telling you, if you try and put stuff on a process map, you might as well give up and go home. We removed all rules. So we said to our handlers, you can do whatever you like, okay? You can do whatever you like to help the customer, do the right thing. Because guess what? Actually, they know what to do. It's us leaders who don't know what to do. But you've got to be proportionate. You've got to be proportionate. You've got to explain to me, if I ask, why what you've done is the right thing. So if somebody's got a television worth £1,000 and you've replaced it with a television worth £5,000, I'm going to be quite curious as to why you've done that, because that doesn't sound proportionate. Okay, but I'm not telling you can't do it. Okay, and guess what? It very rarely happens. But when it does happen, there's a really good reason. Okay, so there are no rules. That in itself has saved us so much money, because you get individual control of cost on a case-by-case basis rather than trying to build it into processes. And you kind of accept when you do that, you get a sort of 80-20 rule. So, you know, you get it wrong 2 times out of 10 so that you can get it right 8 times out of 10. How about having a process that says, let's get it right every single time?
We won the Insurance Times Award in 2014 for that piece of work. So we then started to go around the rest of the Crawford world, often a testament to the point about targets actually inhibit performance. Because if we'd said to our people, okay, in 1 year we want you to have increased customer satisfaction by 30%, and we want you to have reduced the amount you spend on settling claims by a similar amount, they'd have laughed us out of the park and said that was ridiculous. So that would have inhibited their actual achievement.
The key is, what we've learned, IT might be useful. Once you've redesigned the system, then you pull IT to the value work to make it more effective. As we take the demand into the new system, things like the auto valuation manager works for XYZ situation. Auto income verification only works for A, B, and C situation. So we can actually feed back into the team that the software they're building doesn't work and it needs to be changed. It does work for this situation, might not absorb the variety. Can you change some things so we can make it useful?
What was the most telling point for me is when one of the girls on the team, which was still quite young, I think she was about 19, maybe early 20s, realized what that would mean for her colleagues. She was at the point when, oh God, that's sufficient now. Well, that means we need less people. Yeah? And she came to actually speak to me one-to-one and said, Katharina, I'm really worried. I don't want to do this anymore because I'm actually taking away my colleagues' work and potentially jobs. So the good thing was we were a growing business, so we could really deal with that to say, actually the aim here is not to cut anyone's job. The aim is here to get you in a position where you can provide great service without the constant pressure of the phones burning, red lights flashing. You all know these call centers where you have screens up with red flashing lights.
And what happened? Well, when we started, our Net Promoter Score was -3, which is pretty much where everybody else's was. When I left a year and a half ago to go and do casualty claims, it was 55. I was hoping after I left it would drop off again and I could say, look how clever I am. Actually, it's got even better since I left, so it's +60 now. So it just shows you can make a big difference.
This method is about really being truly customer focused. Not saying you are truly customer focused. And it's truly end-to-end. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that I did before, and I was very proud of, and to be fair, helped me to become successful in my career, was never end-to-end. So all of the improvement work I did before was this little bit of the process or that bit of the process with limited knowledge, if any, what happens before and after.
And interesting, a lot of people say to me, Richard, that's fantastic. You're giving a brilliant service. Wouldn't it be better if you gave slightly less good service and it was a lot cheaper? Okay, which just shows they don't understand actually, just as John said earlier on, the better the service, the cheaper it is to give, because it's failure demand that costs you money. Doing things twice costs you money. Doing it right first time is the cheapest way of doing it. We save millions of pounds on indemnity spend because actually your handlers are giving you proportional control on a claim-by-claim basis. You're not relying on process. And they're having better conversations with customers. 50% of the demand into our centre wasn't for people making claims, it's for people seeking advice. If you don't end up booking up claims and settling small value claims because actually the customer doesn't want to make a claim, you save lots of money. If that's not what customers want. So if you do what customers want, when they want, and how they want it, it's always cheaper.
Changing management assumptions and redesigning the system, by using the Vanguard method, demonstrably improves the customer experience, the employee's experience, but also costs and turnover. Thank you.